Hello, hello. Happy new moon in Cancer. Oh my goodness gracious. How is summer feeling for you? It has been pretty wild over here in my neck of the woods the last couple of weeks. Lots of different things up, and all of them feel like they're connected to a deeper thread under the surface. So I'm curious for you as you've been feeling into summer so far, just a couple of weeks here after summer solstice, like what are some of the major, bigger themes that you feel like are up in your life, or maybe what is the kind of thread that's under the surface for you these days, that maybe some of the themes are connected to. Um, this new moon in Cancer is incredibly special as July is a huge month astrologically, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in this video because it's so alive, the different dances and things happening. But what I'm super aware of, and you may have heard other people kind of talking about this, is we have this all of these different sextiles that are forming with the outer planets, kind of starting now, honestly, and into and through July. And sextiles are is this aspect that brings up lots of opportunity. It's a harmonious aspect, actually. And so where there are lots of different things and conversations that are happening astrologically between the planets, and then of course, like through our lives and in our day to day as we are connected to them and they are connected to us. There are also things that are hard that are showing up for just about everybody in my world right now that I'm talking to. It's not like we're only feeling the harmony, and there are definitely these portals of tension and portals of like chaos and change that are also here in the mix of all of it. So I'm going to share my screen and let's dive into the new moon specifically. Okay, so I've created this chart. It's 2:44 a.m. in Seattle is when this goes exact. Correlate it to wherever you were tuning in to this from, but it's going to be Tuesday in the night, or early hours of the morning on the 14th. So you'll see here, sun and moon both at 21 degrees of Cancer in 59 minutes. So just about to go to 22 degrees. And let's just talk about that, like this in simplicity for a second. Cancer is going to always bring us back to our roots, bring us back to our family of origin, bring us back to the emotional waters or the emotional territory that was taking place in childhood. So let yourself just contemplate that for a little bit as you're tuning into this, but then also as this forecast starts to settle after you listen to it and then into the new moon, there are going to be themes that are coming up and emotions perhaps to be felt through that are kind of like very similar, is how I would say, to ways maybe you used to feel as a child or early adolescence. And what marks this new moon so specifically is that we have Mercury retrograde here, really nearby, just a couple of degrees away. And Mercury retrograde is always asking us to do some kind of let our prefrontal cortex relax a little bit and do some feeling or slowing down and contemplation around like whatever sign Mercury is in. So, for example, in this is contemplation around Cancer. It's around emotional waters, around what it means to feel nourished, what it means to feel nurtured, perhaps what what needs or emotional needs didn't get met as a child that now are coming up to kind of be felt through. There's a lot of different ways that this could show up, but to have a new moon seeding this moon cycle, merging with this Mercury that's asking us to slow down and do some feeling. And it's not just contemplation using our prefrontal cortex. In fact, I really am feeling this so much in my own personal life and personal story right now as this draw to actually come back more into the back brain and into the cerebellum as Cancer is, she is like the great mother and rules a lot of like mother line stuff for us. So there may be things and stories that are coming up with like mother dynamics, ways that you were mothered, ways that you're mothering yourself now, ways that maybe you're mothering your kids now, all of that could be up. But the way that I was kind of feeling it as I was tuning in is to take it even a little bit deeper and the feminine energy and that feminine wise mother presence that is great mother really kind of calling us to come in, down, and into the cerebellum and be in our intuitive knowing, be way less in that logical, maybe more masculine energy part of our brain, and coming into image, coming into dream, coming into feminine energy and feminine wisdom. And that functions in a space where there's a slowness, there's almost a requirement to slow down. In fact, I'll give an example. Just today, I was feeling a lot of stuck energy in my body. And I went for a walk in the forest and was as I was walking, I could feel my prefrontal cortex kind of spinning and racing and trying to problem solve. But I could also feel in my throat and in my solar plexus, there was this locked, like a tightening energy. And when I let my brain kind of like it's I use, if you've worked with me, you know this, I use it so often, like the image of honey coming down from the cosmos, filling up that prefrontal cortex, but then tipping the head back and letting it sort of come back down into the cerebellum and settle there and then let that honey trickle down the spine. So I was doing that. And once I got from move from this part of my head that was really trying to be like overactive and I dropped back into the cerebellum, I realized, oh, I need to just like have a really good cry. And once I was walking and moving and sounding and letting the tears just like fall, that's when I started to feel my throat open. And then that's when I started to feel my solar plexus open so that I wasn't so stuck. And then there was clarity that came and rushed up into my prefrontal cortex. And I was able to like use the gift of logic to kind of think through the scenario. But what had to happen first was a like, I wanted to say purge, but it wasn't even purge. It was actually just like feeling through the emotions in my body so that I could actually be in my body, feel my throat open, feel my solar plexus open, and then allow my mind to start to do and work its magic. So I honestly think that in itself is kind of an example of a way that we can play with this. Cancer wants to be felt. It doesn't want to be thought through. And so the Mercury retrograde is a huge gift because it's literally like you can't think your way through this. What is up for you right now is wanting to be processed through felt experience you in your body. And it may look like grief, it may look like rage, it may look like disappointment, it may look like betrayal, but letting yourself actually feel through it is it's literally it's what's being asked of us. It's but almost like what's being required right now in this new moon. And there's a couple of things I want to add to the mix of it. So, one of the things that I really was aware of in this chart is you'll see that there is this grand earth trine, beautiful sacred geometry in the middle. So, we start here with that Cancerian feel. Don't think your way through it. Let the emotions be there. Let the emotions and feeling through the emotions, like that is going to be the nourishment that your body is needing to not try to logic through it, to feel it. And then knowing that we're held in this really beautiful grand earth trine. So grand earth trine is going to be this flow of earth energy. So there's this stability and this resource for us to really let Earth, she always is here to do this for us, but especially with the content that's specifically coming up for you right now emotionally, letting Earth Mother hold it. And if we want to play in some of the other cosmic allies that are in the dance of this, I think it's really important to just note that Chiron is here at 0 degrees of Taurus. Chiron is that wounded healer, really representing the ways we have felt abandoned and rejected from childhood, specifically by birth family, and how we actually get to come into this feeling of being Chiron was adopted by Apollo. So I love to play with the energy and the idea that we have the ability to really tap into the fact that we have been adopted by Father Sun or by Mother Earth. Like we have these cosmic parents, these earth allies that are here to hold us and nurture us and nourish us so that we feel that we aren't alone and we are resourced. So, feeling like the emphasis here, again with Chiron and Taurus, wounds that are old from childhood are here. They're coming up, but they're here to be held in loving awareness of Earth. And the other thing that I noticed was that this is trine the south node in Virgo is 0 degrees as the nodes are about to shift here at the end of July. I'll talk about that in another video. This south node in Virgo is pulling up all of it's just like this final like drudge up of our inner perfectionist, the one inside of us that maybe is afraid or runs slightly anxious or like hyper vigilant, can feel like very mental, can feel like brain gets really spinny. But really, it is that perfectionist and that worrier that can kind of live inside of us that stems back into childhood as well, and ways that we adopted some of those tendencies to stay safe as a little, and how they kind of show up for us now, then in the hypersensitivity and feeling like, am I doing this right? Am I good enough? Feeling like maybe at a very deep imprinted level, I believe I'm not enough. So, there's that piece. But then what I really want to like offer, as I know we're going to all be feeling the charge of both of these energies, is the reality that Chiron is the wounded healer. And the whole deal with him is that his deepest wound became his medicine. And the whole deal with this South Node in Virgo is that the things that are coming up to be released around some of these energies and the wounds around Virgo are to really let it solidify in our beings at an embodied, literally like a cellular level, that it's the wisdom of Virgo. Virgo rooted in that word virgin, which is means to be whole unto oneself. So there is this call to remember your wholeness. Remember that there is a lot of myth on our planet that we were born broken, that we were born sinful, that we were born like in not in our wholeness. We were born broken or fractured. That is not true. So it's letting that embodied wisdom come around the spiral again and really fall into ourselves. Like, I am whole, I am worthy, I am enough simply because I breathe. And there is this divine part of me in my soul that is not broken, that does not need to be saved or fixed. It's whole. And how do I come back and remember that again? So that's a huge piece with Venus here too. There's like a magnetism on it that's just like, yes, 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 anchor into this. And then I love that the last one here is Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn, because it's any of the stories that have become overlays over our souls in ways that we need to exile our feminine energy or stay on the outside or keep it repressed, or, a lot of times too, we'll call this placement the wherever the witch wound is. The witches, again, it's like I say this over and over, I feel like they were the healers. They were like some of the most important members in the community. And it's just been thousands of years of brainwashing that have taught us that that's not true. But our souls remember that too. So, yes, you can probably feel on a certain level, there's a lot of charge or flare up with this new moon on some of these stories that are really, really old, perhaps even lifetimes of these stories. So it's a big new moon. And if we really come into the awareness, I feel like, of this grand earth trine that's holding sacred space as this moon comes into this placement, there is this really beautiful holding of remember your wholeness, remember your feminine wisdom. Remember that the wounds that are here, it's just part of the earth school. It doesn't mean that they don't hurt. It doesn't mean that we're going to just like ignore them or stuff them. It's again, let yourself feel. What is it going to mean for you this week, really, to just like allow the emotional content that's actually there to be there? And even with the Mercury retrograde, it's like you don't even have to take a bunch of action right now, but let yourself feel it. Have the good cry, scream into the pillow, sing a rage song in your car as loud as you can, or scream or dance, like whatever it is that you need to do to let the emotions move through, do it. The last thing that I want to highlight is that this new moon is happening between now and the full moon. We're going to have this really, really important moment where the outer planets, Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius, which is sextile to Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries, which is sextile to Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini, which is sextile to Jupiter, who's not quite at 4 degrees yet, but will be in about a week, 4 degrees of Leo. These are planets that rule big moments and are ushering in huge shifts of consciousness and awareness and change. And I don't believe this is going to be an overnight shift, but I believe that they are seeding a lot in this moon cycle that's coming up. So everything that I have just shared is how you can engage with the moon cycle and the cosmic material in your personal life. And then just know and feel, if you want to, that there are these huge planetary bodies, all kind of like how this grand earth trine is holding sacred space for us. These are our cosmic, I see them almost like our aunts and our uncles. Like they're our planetary family that are holding this space for us in their orbits way, way out in our galaxy. And Pluto, I've been really tuning in. I'm just going to presence each of these individually a little bit so you can feel it. Pluto is like the shaman who is holding space for a medicine journey for us as a humanity, in the energy of Aquarius that is asking us to do it different, to let the consciousness shift and expand, to not be in these old, stuck, stagnant, power over warring consciousness ways, but like come into collaboration and connection with the reality that we are all connected and that we're going to all be different. We're going to be in our uniqueness. Aquarius celebrates the uniqueness, and it doesn't try to change everybody to think the way that it thinks. It also has the wisdom of what community feels like when we allow all of us to be who we are. So there's this Pluto shaman sort of energy that's holding that, that's asking for us to just keep awakening into what does that mean for me to really be myself in the world and not be afraid. it's creating that sextile, that opportunity with Neptune, who is the mystic, but in the sign of Aries, which is fire and spark of like spring. And it's kind of got that equinox, spring equinox sort of energy. I always think of the seedlings in my garden and the resiliency that they have to burst through the soil. But Aries is independence. So it's this almost like clarity from a spiritual level, Neptune, a clarity of this is who I am. I am here to be me. I'm not here to be anybody else. And it's important to have that clarity of who that person is, which I think is what Neptune's continuing to solidify in each of us. This is who I am. And I am different. And I am different than my family of origin. And there is still a way to connect and be in community from this love of self and this trust in my independence and the wisdom of individuation and then merging back into community as an individuated whole person, whole self who knows who they are. That is sextile with Uranus, the planet of change, who's here to bring us liberation in the sign of Gemini, which for me, if we're going to just keep this simple, is really getting us in with how we are not just living in these paradigms of black and white, of good and bad, of right and wrong, but allowing color and allowing the wisdom of the child, of the innocence of the play. And if you like watch kids, if we I'm with these kids so much more now that I have my son, I'm watching these little 2-year-olds play with each other a couple weeks ago. And it doesn't mean that they don't have strong opinions and have even emotional explosions at times. But it's like the wisdom of their innocence is that they can feel their feelings, they can be in that present moment. And then the way that they're able to like scream or cry or disagree with the other one or be mad at that one for a second. And then the way that they're able to shake it off and come back into community and into relationship and into playing together again is really quite beautiful. And, I think that the children are the masters, really, in so many ways. So Uranus is here in some of that energy to liberate us, to liberate our minds. Mercury is ruled by Gemini, to allow us to merge um, with the concept that it life is color. And we don't need to be so stuck in our ways. We can find the play and the curiosity. And then the last piece is that then Uranus is sextile with Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance that's in the sign of Leo, which is asking for us to get into our hearts, to get into the wisdom of our hearts, to get into the medicine that lives in our hearts, and to be seen, to shine. It's absolutely way easier to just like say that on a little video moon map like this than to do it. But I just encourage you to allow this new moon, again, if we just play like we're following the cosmic breadcrumbs here, and if this is starting a new moon cycle, and we know that there is already these grand, beautiful, wise planets that are pulling on our evolutionary stories so drastically right now that we really want to pay attention to the emotional stuff that is coming up because it's part of the map. And I'll be curious how we all kind of move through these next 2 weeks and what starts to show up at the full moon. So we'll touch back in again in a couple of weeks with that full moon. But until then, I'm sending so much love, super curious how you're feeling about all of this. So please feel free to comment and let me know. It is such a potent time to be here on the earth. And I'm just honored to be here and hold this space. So, new moon blessings and bye for now.